We will call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Election Commissioners for the City of Chicago. Good morning. My name is Marisol Hernandez, and with me is Commissioner June Brown.
Present.
And Commissioner William Cressy.
Also present.
Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the amended agenda. Any requests? If not, we'll proceed with the next item, which is election day issues. And the first item is the possible removal of judges of election. Mr. Lasker?
Nothing in that sort is pending, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. And the next item could be the possible court action to address late polling place openings.
And again, not necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we will move to the Executive Director's report. Ms. Holliday?
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow commissioners. I just want to echo Commissioner Cressy's words that the staff did a great job with the election. Those things that was in our power to handle, we handled. I want to give special thanks to the Assistant Director, Sandra Sparrow, for directing the staff through this process. And then also a special thanks to our General Counsel, Adam Lasker, and our Legal Counsel, Joan Agnew, who helped us tremendously through this process. And we look forward to November election. We're in the process of the post-election procedures that our Assistant Director will speak on. But again, thank the staff and everyone for a great election. And right now, the project that I'm working on is the redrawing of precinct boundaries on the ward maps, lands along with the districts and boundaries. We're working together. As of today, we have 21 wards that have signed off on new precinct boundaries, 5 wards awaiting signatures, 7 scheduled for this week, 8 more to schedule, and 9 in process, meaning they have the maps and they're waiting to renumber the precincts and to sign off. Those that weren't scheduled, Lance, myself, and the guys from Districts and Boundaries, we're planning on going to City Council tomorrow and kind of waiting in the back until they're done so we can get them to look at it, sign off on them. This process has to be done by July 31st with all the new lines and everything entered into the system. So in August, mid-August, we can start mailing out new voters cards. We'll have new walk sheets for voters and the older persons. So with that, Madam Chair, that ends my report.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Sparrow?
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Before giving my report, I would like to make some comments about the election. One ward clearly describes this election season challenging, and I would like to express my gratitude to all the dedicated board employees who made it possible to overcome the challenges by taking action as circumstances arose. The board employees worked tirelessly through this election cycle with the redistricting impact, the scarcity of locations for polling places, a smaller pool of election judges, chain supply issues, and more, including the active virus and the summer weather conditions. Thank you to all the board employees. Your efforts were greatly appreciated. And now to my report. The Election Central Help Desk was a successful internal operation. We received over 3,500 calls on Election Day. I completed the canvass at the warehouse with Joan Agnew and Ron Boyd. We completed the retabulation of precincts and obvious discrepancies. We also completed the 5% test of precincts and early voting ballots. The warehouse has removed Form 14, the application for ballot from the spindles. The applications were sent to the registration department and are currently being scanned. The warehouse is also in the process of unloading equipment from the ESCs. Procedures were provided to record and preserve the election materials. I have requested an inventory of paper on hand that we can be used for the general election so we can determine what we need to purchase. The judges of elections coordinators payroll has been processed and checks were mailed out last week. The IT department has started deploying new desktop computers to board employees. The board's budget for 2023 was submitted by the deadline, which was July 11th. And that completes my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? If not, we'll proceed with our Public Information Director, Max Bever.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I will reiterate what the Executive Director and Assistant Executive Director said, and thank you to all board staff for all of their assistance in communications on Election Day. And I do want to give a special shout out to our community services and our language access team for all of their assistance too. Communications, we are in the process of updating all materials for the next elections information, as well as putting everything together for petition season for the municipal election. So that includes getting the website up to date, as well as all of our forms and translations. I also worked with the Executive Director to put together a communications plan to announce the precinct consolidation efforts when it is complete. So we are working on a mass mailing to all Chicago voters with their new district information, including their new police council, once that is ready. But we will also be out into the media and be discussing this with community groups when the time comes to let people know that these districts will be and precincts will be in effect for the upcoming election in November. And we look forward to 3 elections in a row after this. So we are well underway. And that is my report, Chairwoman.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, we will now proceed to old business. First item is infrastructure projects and changes in election administration, including electronic poll books and voting equipment. Mr. Holliday, anything new on that?
Nothing, just our regular after the election process of cleaning those machines up and preparing them for the next election.
Right. Okay. Mr. Lasker, I think I know the answer to this, but anything on legislation?
Well, I think you're guessing that they're not in session, and you're correct about that. Our friendly organization, AECOI, Election Commission Officials of Illinois, has retained a lobbyist, and I've recently reasserted the board's ongoing legislative platform. He's including that with all the outreach that he's doing down there in Springfield. So we're hopeful that there might be some small things handled in the veto session coming later this summer, most particularly the legislation for vote centers being open on election day expires at the end of this year. We're all set for the November election, but it's a big question mark for February. So that, I've told him, is our top priority, because I think we all saw in this past election that yet again, having those vote centers open on election day was a tremendous benefit for the voters. So convenience, they went there, they used it, helped with the precincts that couldn't open on time tremendously. So hopefully we'll get that pushed.
Okay.
But nothing else to report at this time.
Yeah. Maybe we should get a list of what the issues are. So, just so we can know.
Sure. I mean, I've typed up narratives to him, and I'm happy to, bullet point those lists out for circulation amongst ourselves, and so we know the talking points.
Right. Okay. Next item on the agenda is new business, and that is the consideration and adoption of the 2023 election calendar.
That's correct. Trish and I have been working on updating all the dates and deadlines and so forth for the next the 2023 municipal and aldermanic election cycle. Also, the calendar's been updated substantively because this will be the first round of elections in Chicago for its police district councils. There are 22 police districts in Illinois. 3 members of the district council will be elected from each of those police districts. So that's 66 brand new positions we're going to have on our ballot, going from 53 open spots, adding those 66 new spots to it. So it's going to be quite a different looking ballot from now on in the municipal cycle. We still have a sort of to be determined in terms of the signature requirements for those offices. There's some rather substantial ambiguities in the ordinance that establishes that. I have been in communication with City Council and the legal counsel for the City Council's Rules Committee. Hopefully we'll be able to get some amendments done. But in the meantime, we've provided what the ordinance specifies, the language of the ordinance to define that signature requirement. And it, if nothing else, we'll amend it later to give a ballpark estimate on what there just cannot at this time be an actual number provided. This issue very well may come up in electoral board. We shall see. But otherwise, Trish and I have gone through with a fine-tooth comb to get all those dates and deadlines updated for the 2023 election cycle. And we certainly may have to amend things in the future, but it's looking good to me and it's ready for publication.
Okay, I'm sure we'll have some amendments along the way.
I'm
Yes,
sorry, Adam. I think giving what you said, giving a ballpark figure on what the signature requirements would be for the police boards would be good, because I think I personally know of some people who are considering it, but they'd like to have some idea about how many signatures they're going to have to collect. Is it 25, 250, or 2,500? So that would be a good thing to do. Thank you.
I will, because there's also quite large large differences among the police councils. The districts are very different sizes in terms of population. So one district is going to be a much smaller population size, therefore a smaller signature requirement. So I'll work on that for the next meeting. Next week we'll have a meeting.
Thank you.
I have a quick question too, Adam. You noted in the information that you sent out about active and inactive voters. Is that something that can be determined, or I know there's no statute that addresses that, but is there something that we can talk about, because that'll make a difference in the numbers too?
Well, that's another thing that I'm seeking clarity in the ordinance. I think that it looks like the only legal ruling there's ever been that we're aware of, and when I say we, I mean the election bar. I've been reaching out and working with Barb Goodman to reach out to attorneys in the election bar who may have been involved in cases that didn't result in an appellate court decision. If there's a circuit court order on a case, those are much harder to find in terms of legal research. But there can be cases out of the suburbs and so forth that would provide guidance. The one case we all know of is actually one I was involved with out in Forest Park, where there's a signature requirement for some referenda that's based on total number of registered voters. That's what we're talking about here, is a signature requirement based on the total number of registered voters. Usually these candidate signature requirements are based upon the prior election results. And prior election results, like we just proclaimed and certified this morning, now those are set. They're not going to change. But the number of registered voters changes on almost a daily basis. So it also involves the question of active versus inactive. The case I was involved with in Forest Park, the electoral board ruled that when the statute says registered voters, it means all registered voters, whether they are in active or inactive status. So my personal opinion is we should lean in that direction. That's not because the Forest Park electoral board said so, but because there's just some good reasoning in the board members. They were actually represented by a good attorney. There was me on one side. There were good attorneys on the other side, we'll say. So that's what I'm leaning towards. But our office in Cook County also have, there's a real tradition around the state actually of considering only your active registered voters as your registered voters. So this is another issue. We've discussed it with the city council. I'm hoping we can get some clarity on it. What I'm really hoping is that we can change the signature requirement to be based on past election results, like most other candidate signature requirements. That just makes it definite. Everybody knows what to look at for the data. There's no questions. That data does not change. That's what we're hoping for.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we shall proceed. Is there a motion to adopt the 2023 election calendar?
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a legal report. Mr. Lasker, anything else?
Well, I'm sorry to steal the meeting. I have a few more things I'd like to say, if I may. I want to start off with pointing out that this was only the second election cycle. We used our brand new set of equipment. That's something I always feel like everybody forgot about in 2020, that we rolled out a whole brand new system of election equipment. Really, that headline was overshadowed by the pandemic. But I just want to point out we did that again. And speaking of new things at the board, we happen to have a tremendous amount of turnover since the last election cycle at high levels. And so I just want to remind the world that we have a brand new Commissioner Brown, just went through her first election in that position. Executive Director Charles Holliday, Assistant Director Sandra Aspera, Public Information Director Max Bever, HR Director Karen Chin, Finance Director Kimberly Carrillo Walker. Those are only some of the names, but we had a real young and new team here marching through this election, and I tip my hat to everybody because they all pulled it off. I think it's only going to get better from here on out. But really, with that new team, they did a great job.
Thank you for making me feel old, Adam.
Experienced, sir, just experienced.
Seasoned.
Yes, well seasoned. We'll call you Lori's from now on. We had these 73 vacant precincts, and I'd like to point out that now that we know the full voter turnout from the final election, the voter turnout in the 73 vacant precincts was about 0.6 percentage points higher than the citywide average. We were all concerned that this would have a very detrimental impact, and I'm very pleased to report that not only did those precincts on average meet the citywide average, but they exceeded it by 0.6 percentage points. So I'm glad that the message got out, the voters heard, they rotated, they pivoted, they did what they needed to do to get their ballots cast, and I commend them for that. Last thing on the list for me is that we will be receiving today 4 electoral board cases from the State Board of Elections. This is the cycle where the objections are filed against independent candidates and candidates of new political parties. There are 4 of them for our jurisdiction. My plan, commissioners, if it works for you, is to set the initial electoral board meeting for next week, Tuesday, in conjunction with the regular board meeting we have scheduled for that day. I'm just assuming that your calendars are clear for that morning. And then we'll get those calls sent out and so forth, get the notices sent out today and tomorrow.
That would be fine.
That's fine. Yeah.
So there is my legal report for today. Thank you all.
Okay. Just to note, to follow up on something that Adam said, and with regards to Charles and Sandra, I think one of the priorities is as of now, let's be on the hunt for those locations where we could possibly hold elections, so we could minimize the number of vacant precinct places. And so if we could do that, that would be great.
Yes, Madam Chair, just as soon as we're done with the precinct boundaries, that will polling place, they have already started some of that now. From some of the meetings, they've met with the aldermen, and then they'll talk with the committee persons as well to help locate new polling places to combine with the existing ones that we have.
Yeah.
I've talked with Brandon and Chris on that. They took a lunch break after the last election and then got back to work for the next one. Yeah. They're definitely working on that already.
And then the other priority, of course, is judges. We need to figure out a way to let organizations and media, have media publicize the need for election judges, and do everything we can because the November election is going to be a lot more active than this primary. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know, what the other commissioners have as their priorities, but these two things are very important. Okay, and I'm sure you'll be on top of it. So thank you.
If, Madam Chair, if I could just raise really quick, because I've gotten, contact about this, and just to put on the record, Adam or whoever, I got on election day calls that, oh, the Sharpies are bleeding through the paper ballots. Again, Irish, just on the record, it's my understanding that if it does bleed through, it's not going to be to a place on the back of the ballot that would mark another candidate or vote, and it won't cause a ballot to get rejected. Is that correct on both points?
That's correct. The bleed through from the markers is anticipated. It's built into the design of the ballot. Those marking points have nothing on the flip side. It's specifically intentionally made so that will not cause a problem.
Right, and it doesn't reject the ballot if that happens, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the Sharpie ink is superior to, say, ballpoint pen ink because it won't clog up the I forget what you call them, the region.
Scanners.
The scanners. Okay.
Ballpoint pen ink gets gooey and can have globs in it, and yes, the Sharpie, the permanent marker ink like that is still the recommended ink to use, which is why they built into the ballots the design for the bleed through to not cause a problem.
Okay, just wanted to get that on the record, make sure I had that straight. Thanks so much.
Okay, I think I'm frozen, but hopefully you can still hear me.
We hear you. We hear you, Steve.
Oh, okay. And so, are there any further questions regarding the election? If not, we have our next item would be the financial report. We have none. Is there any? Are there any requests for public comment? I don't.
No, we do not have any request for public comment.
Okay, thank you. Is there a need for executive session?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, if not, then I would enter. Oh, Commissioner.
Yes, Madam Chair, point of personal privilege, as Mr. Lasker stated, finished my first election on this side. I want to thank everyone who made it a great transition and memorable in a good way, even with the challenges, how adeptly you handled them and made for me, from the chair to the consultants to everyone included, staff in particular. You handled it and you made me feel really good coming in on this side. And though I know it will be more challenging coming up, I look forward to working with each of you again. So thank you so much for making this that wonderful.
And I just want to say again, great thanks. Though I was stricken down by COVID, the staff did great in keeping me in the loop for my own little election central in my sickbed. So I appreciate all that they did for that. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you, everyone. And I'll just chime in once again and say thank you for to the staff, to management. It was a very good election. We have some kinks to work out as usual. And so let's start working on everything, right away to ensure that we get the maximum number of voters out and that this November election will be the most successful ever.
Another point of personal privilege, if I may. Just before I was stricken by COVID, and maybe because of it, I attended the International Association of Government Officials annual meeting in Palm Springs, where I made 2 presentations. And I just want to tell you the almost universal respect that folks around the country have for the way this board conducts elections. So I just wanted to, put that out there and say that apparently we're doing it right. So again, and I thank our staff and our people for doing that. Thanks so much. You make me look good. Thank you.
Thank you. And on that note, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Thank you so much. We are adjourned. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.